Is breaking news. It has just happened. There has been a major blow up in the White House between President Trump and Vice President JD Vance and Volodymyr Zelenskyy. I played the audio clip at the end of the last hour. I got to play this for you if you're just tuning in. This is a really, really big deal. I'm struggling to think that anybody comes off great here doing this in front of the camera, but Trump does negotiate and come up with policy in front of the camera, something that the Ukrainians should have been advised about, and it happened here, and it did not go well for Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are
Mr.
not
President,
strong...
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that it's respectful
to
come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
That.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering
position
on
to
this question.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
what
I'm not
You're
dictating.
in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very
you will
good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not
Mr.
in a good position. You don't have
in
the cards right now. With us, you start having cards.
Playing cards.
But right now, you don't.
You're
playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're gambling with the
president
lives of
anymore.
millions of people.
You're
gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once?
A lot of times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank you.
Even today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Someone should have had something in Zelensky's ear. Shut up. When Donald Trump starts talking, don't try to interrupt him. Shut up. He did not come across well in the exchange. He did not. He was defensive in the exchange. Now, listen, if you listen to this program, I support the Ukrainians, and I think having Ukrainians kill Russians is a good thing for us, but he didn't come off well in this exchange. He needed to stand up, drop his pants, and play on the piano with his dingling, which is how he actually came to fame. I'm not actually making that up. He was a Ukrainian comedian, and his shtick was to play a piano with, his male member, shall we say. I mean, he could have eased the tension in the room had he done something like that, but other than that, there's no way to ease the tension in the room. And you can tell J.D. Vance brings it up. It remains a sore spot for the Trump administration that the Ukrainian president campaigned actively for Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania, something that never should have happened. Now, for those of you who are outraged that Donald Trump would have a hostile exchange with Volodymyr Zelenskyy, it did not happen on camera, but the White House under Joe Biden, if you will recall, in July of last year, let it leak to NBC News that Joe Biden tore into Volodymyr Zelenskyy in an angry, heated telephone call accusing Zelenskyy of not being grateful for American support. So don't say Joe Biden didn't do it. He didn't do it on camera, but he did do it. It's July of 2024, NBC News. Oof. Here's the problem. There are, and again, you've got to understand this, and this goes back to the hyper online right. There are people on the hyper online right who really are tied to the Putin regime. They love the Russians. They think they can bring the Russians into the Western fold. They perceive the Russians to be anti-woke. The Russians are not our friends. In fact, this is more breaking news right now. This is actual breaking news. This is from CNN, just hit the wires. Foreign adversaries, including Russia and China, have recently directed their intelligence services to ramp up recruiting of U.S. federal employees working in national security, targeting those who have been fired or feel that they soon could be, according to 4 people familiar with recent U.S. intelligence on the issue. The intelligence indicates that foreign adversaries are eager to exploit the Trump administration's efforts to conduct mass layoffs across the federal workforce, a plan laid out by the Office of Personnel and Management earlier this week. Russia and China are focusing their efforts on recently fired employees with security clearances and probationary employees at risk of being terminated who may have valuable information about U.S. critical infrastructure and vital government bureaucracy, 2 of the sources said. At least 2 countries have already set up recruitment websites and begun aggressively targeting federal employees on LinkedIn, 2 of the sources said. Russia is not our friend. We should be siding with the Ukrainians. But Volodymyr Zelenskyy let the veil slip from the carefully coordinated PR tour that he has done in the past with his Vanity Fair profile. And the guy and Trump clearly do not get along. I'm starting to wonder if Ukraine needs a new leader. I say that in all seriousness. It might be time for Volodymyr Zelenskyy to retire. He and Donald Trump have gotten off on the wrong foot. Trump and Vance clearly don't care for the guy. Vance has never cared to help Ukraine. That already influences Trump's thinking. Zelenskyy has made a series of political mistakes related to this country, including campaigning for Kamala Harris. They need a deal with the United States. It appears they're going to get a deal. They may need to cool off and reset to come up with a deal this afternoon. Apparently, Zelenskyy is going to sign the deal, but this is actually a very big deal today that this happened in public for everyone to see. I personally don't think anyone in the room came off looking great. Zelenskyy, though, is not a man. I mean, Donald Trump is right. He's not in position. Zelenskyy is not in a position to make demands on the United States. This is Donald Trump in this exchange with Volodymyr Zelenskyy. A little more of this.
Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without...
They got him worked up. He then turns to Zelenskyy. I'm not actually going to continue playing the clip because he's so worked up, I'm not sure if he's going to utter profanity or not. But he turns to Zelenskyy and says, you're either going to make a deal or we're out. You're not acting at all thankful, and that's not a nice thing. Trump and Vance don't like Zelenskyy. Ukraine needs to reset this relationship. Now, listen, there are a lot of people on the left. There are a lot of Democrats. There are a lot of people on the right who hate Donald Trump, who can bluster, yell, pound their hands on the desk, whatever. But Donald Trump is president of the United States. You cannot afford to make this man mad. Zelenskyy has to reset the relationship. If he wants an effort to wind down this war in Ukraine's favor, he's got to reset the relationship with the president of the United States. And 1,000%, it is true, and you must acknowledge it is true. You are not intellectually honest unless you're willing to acknowledge it is true that Volodymyr Zelenskyy did a campaign event in Pennsylvania for Kamala Harris. That matters to Donald Trump. It clearly matters to JD Vance, who brought it up. Zelensky's got to have to rethink the way he handles Trump and shut up when Trump is talking. Stop trying to interject when Trump is talking. When he wants to yell at you, you let him yell at you. Many of us, myself included, have been yelled at by Donald Trump, and it's fine. It comes with the territory. But it's a bad look, I gotta say. It is not a good look for Zelenskyy to sit there and try to turn the tables on Trump and Vance, lecturing him by lecturing them. The reality is, you have to sit there and take it, and you have to thank them for it. I don't know what effect this will have on the American public. I don't. I think Americans still tend to be sympathetic to Ukraine, but I don't think Zelenskyy does come across looking great in the clip. I do think Americans get we don't want to help the Russians. Far better for Ukraine to keep killing the Russians. The Russians and the Chinese are working against us. They're now trying to co-opt federal employees who hate Donald Trump. That's Donald Trump's own intelligence saying that this is happening. We don't want to help the Russians. The Russians are not our friends. And if the Trump administration thinks they can cut a deal with the Russians, they're fooling themselves, and they will be the latest Republican administration fooled by Vladimir Putin. Remember, George W. Bush believed he looked into Vladimir Putin's eyes and saw his soul and knew he could do business with him. And that was right before Vladimir Putin betrayed the United States. Yet again, it's going to happen. You can't trust them. We should be working with the Ukrainians. But Zelenskyy did not handle himself well, and there's going to need to be a reset in the relationship. And that reset may include Volodymyr Zelenskyy thinking, you know what? I might need to step aside for someone else to go make nice with Donald Trump. Until this moment, I hadn't thought, and listen, the Ukrainian Constitution does suspend elections during war. So there isn't going to be an election in Ukraine. But it might be time for Zelenskyy to say, you know what? I got to step out of this in order for the good of my country. Somebody's got to play nice with Donald Trump, and it can't be me because I did make the mistake of campaigning for Kamala Harris. And I think Zelensky's team needs to realize whoever has been advising you and advised you to campaign for the Democrats, probably you need to stop listening to them. You are doing yourself no favor, buddy. I'm sympathetic for you and your country, but that did not go well. Objectively, that did not go well. And by the way, the markets have reacted negatively to the whole thing. The markets have taken it. They were up, and they have nosedived since that meeting. They don't like the unpredictability of it. They certainly don't like it in public, but Donald Trump negotiates in public all the time. They should have known going into the room something like that could have happened. Zelenskyy has not been adequately prepared to deal with Donald Trump.